Did the Niners give up too much for Christian McCaffrey? A second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth in 2024.
Yeah, they did, but ultimately, I'm okay with it. Look, it's a huge swing for the fences. It's a huge gamble. I mean, we're not even playing craps here anymore. We're playing blackjack. It's a little bit of a where the odds are stacked against the Niners in terms of what version of McCaffrey you're going to get. It's number one, you're going to get the healthy McCaffrey. Number two, are you going to get even close to 2019 All-Pro McCaffrey? Right. Huge stretches. But the fact that McCaffrey's been good, especially pretty good this year with the offense that's been putrid, it's very encouraging to see. And the fact that his health hasn't had a single hiccup, you're hoping that continues. But the concern of what you just said leading into this question is, look, you're trading for an injury-prone player for a team that's known for getting their players, especially running backs, hurt. It's almost like, dude, this is like a match made in heaven in terms of like, oh, that's a perfect fit. We're building the all-injury team over here. But to me,
where's your self-awareness, right?
Yeah. So who else were you going to get? I mean, Elijah Mitchell, he's pretty much injury-prone. What is he going to be? Jeff Wilson Jr., he's solid, but he can't do much in the passing game. You need someone it's more, again, someone that's going to give you that Jimmy Garoppolo boost, that ultimate run game boost, and to help Deebo Samuel. And now it's like, boof, you have a bunch of interchangeable pieces. No longer are defense is going to feel 100% committed to defending against Deebo, because it's like, all right, go ahead, you do it. I got McCaffrey now, so good luck, fool. Now, you want to go to take on McCaffrey? Guess what? Deebo 2021 all over again. So it's a huge oversell, but I'm personally of the mind, like, swing for the fences. You're probably going to land on your faces, but I like it. As a gambling man, I like it.
Look, okay, fair enough. All I'm saying is I don't think Bill Walsh would have done this. Bill Walsh drafted and developed players. He traded for Steve Young, but he would trade for guys who were like values. He traded a second and a fourth for Steve Young, a quarterback who was the number one pick coming out of college. McCaffrey's a running back who's had injuries, and they give up a second, a third, a fourth, and then a fifth the following year. So I just don't feel like Walsh would have done this. Not that Kyle has to do what Walsh would do, and we don't know what Walsh would do because he's passed away. But what I want to say is, forget just Christian. Look at the running back position in totality. The last 18 months, the Niners traded up for Trey Sermon, drafted Ty Davis Price, and then made this trade. So in 18 months on the running back position, they spent a second round pick, 1 second, 3/3, 3/4, and a fifth, not to mention the sixth on Elijah Mitchell. There is no team more invested in the running back position than the 49ers. And what do they have to show for it? A bunch of injured dudes and Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, I mean, he might end up being Roger Craig. But Roger Craig didn't have injury issues like this until he was damn near 30. And another thing I want to say is, so they brought in McCaffrey now. They never gave Ty Davis Price a real chance. And they never gave Jordan Mason a chance at all. Bill Walsh won his first Super Bowl with 3 rookies starting in his secondary. I mean, he drafted and developed Roger Craig, drafted and developed Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Tom Rathman. You never gave your young guys a chance. Kyle doesn't even, he seems like he has no patience for young guys unless he has no choice, and he doesn't feel like developing them. That's why I feel a little weird about this deal. It's like, dude, you got running backs. Jed York and John Lynch signed off on you getting all these young guys, and without you even putting them on the field, you're like, you know what? Screw him. I want Christian McCaffrey and his injury history. I'm just a little. Yes, they gave up too much. Yes.
Yeah, you said Bill Walsh wouldn't have done it, and that's most likely true. But who else in the league is? I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot in the league are going to side with Kyle on this in terms of like they don't draft for development. Any head coach who has a say just usually says, "I want the now." It's always thinking about the now and irrational thinking. They don't care about big picture. They don't care about weeks ahead. When they're thinking about we're taking it weeks at a time, they literally are taking it weeks at a time. So after that loss to Atlanta, imagine Kyle Shanahan like that freaking sucked. Like what was that? And I'm sure he doesn't really blame himself that much for that game, other than Jeff Wilson coughed up fumble led to a touchdown. Now you're gone. Matt Breida style 2019, you're gone. So McCaffrey comes available, and that's where you do.
Also, it seems like some Niner fans, maybe the Niners themselves, feel like this was the price of keeping Christian McCaffrey away from the Rams. It seemed like the Niners were concerned about that. I also want to say something real quick. If the Rams had gotten McCaffrey, they'd still be a slow offense. Their offense would still be Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey, and Ben Skoranek. There's no Van Jefferson. Maybe he's coming back soon. Or Odell Beckham downfield threat. And I'm still thinking methodical offense. And that's my thing with this is like, Yes, he's a good player. It's still a methodical, slow offense. If he were on the field in Atlanta, they wouldn't necessarily been able to get down the field in less than 8 minutes. You know what I mean? So we'll see. And we're going to talk about that Atlanta game in a minute. But yeah, I felt they gave up too much. But we'll see. Nee says, one thing I haven't seen people talk about without the Lance trade being forcing Jimmy's discount, this doesn't happen. Take chances and good things can happen. Okay.
Well, I mean, he's barely making $1 million and a half this year. What does it matter?
Yeah. It's next year. And that's another thing I want to say. So
next year, that's the one where it's gonna that's when you're gonna start to feel the heftiness of his contract. But it's not guaranteed. Yes, his guaranteed money's out.
Let's talk about that. So it's not just the draft picks. It's the fact that you have no draft next year, essentially, other than the comp picks in round 5 and after.
We're off that day. We're gonna be off that day.
You don't have any cap space down the line. So now you're giving $12 million a year to Christian McCaffrey, $16 million to Kittle, $20 plus to Armstead, almost $30 to Trent Williams, $30 plus to Nick Bosa. Like, there's just no more, and it's going to be this way for the next 4 years. This is their team, and if they want to get rid of anyone, there's going to be big dead cap, and so they're not going to be able to maneuver in free agency. Okay, fine. Well, they can draft, right? No, they don't have draft picks. So they're in a tough. This is their team. And they have it's a very top heavy roster with 7 or 8 guys making a ton of money. Man, if 3 of those guys are hurt in any given game, good luck. So usually the Niners in the past would have cap space and a big middle class of players not making a ton of money. Now they're like, the Cowboys, where you have this the Rams, where it looks good when people are healthy, but if you take a few high paid guys out and all of a sudden it looks bad, and the Niners can't keep their guys healthy. So
it's bad for the Niners because their top heavy guys are like known to be injured. So that's the difference, I would say, from the Rams. But
that's true.
I mean, look at always, mess around with their contracts and push it down the lines. I mean, that's what you pay Paraj for. You figure it out, man. Figure it out and make it fit under the umbrella.
Hero Winchester said Kyle wanted Jimmy. CMC is what Kyle wanted McKinnon to be, but better. Debo is what Kyle wanted Jalen Hurd to be, but better. No excuses, Super Bowl time. I agree with the no excuses, Super Bowl time.
That's a good one.
Carbo says, let's be honest, if the Rams made this trade, this fan base would be 190% trashing this deal. Hate the price we paid. Kyle and John's neck truly on the line. That's a good point. If the Rams had given up a 2, a 3, or 4, Niner fans would be laughing. Laughing. And I think most people...
Last thing on thoughts on the picks. I mean, look, if you weren't... I know picks do get overvalued to an extent, and when you're a losing team, you should be caring about them, but this is not... Come on, this shouldn't be a losing team. So I don't. That's why, again, I don't blame the swing and just shooting from half court, full court, whatever you want to measure it. Like, just give it a chance. As much as, again, odds stacked against you with this guy, but if it does work out, shoot, watch out.
It makes the season much more interesting. They needed to do an all-in move. It's not the all-in move I would have done, but it's definitely an all-in move, and it's very interesting. It really puts a lot of pressure on Kyle, which I like. D. Wood says our last 2 Super Bowls were not under Bill Walsh. Let him rest in peace. He is not walking through the door. Okay, D-Wood. Niner Gang Wolfcast says, hey, it's Wolf. Texted you, but would appreciate if I can get a channel shout out. Shout out to Niner Gang Wolfcast. Check out his channel on YouTube. Check your DMs, emails. All right, I will, dude. Thank you. Leo says, if D'Amico brings 2 third rounders, this trade means nothing. You have 4 third-round picks. Figure it out with a full roster. Okay, man, just keep... But it's like... You have all this draft capital, and you keep burning it on running backs. You could give it to anything. Quarterback, defensive end, defensive line, offensive line, anything. But Kyle keeps being like, let's take another swing. I'm 0 for 5 swinging on running backs, But let's take a 6th cut. When you got Bobby Turner, who can take any undrafted free agent and make him a 1,000-yard rusher. It's strange to me. But yeah, maybe this one will be the one that bucks a trend, Leo.
I did think when they did a trade, I thought they were going to consider more so like a defensive lineman. If they were going to trade for anyone, because they traded defensive linemen for the last 2 years, but it's like who was going to be available, and let's be real. The real issue was offense. They needed something.
Yeah, but if we were to make a list yesterday before this trade of the Niners' biggest needs, I don't think you would put running back that high. Maybe you would.
No,
maybe
because
you
ultimately
would.
I feel like the offensive woes. No, I wouldn't put it that high, but I think the offensive woes is mainly because of the Kyle drive. Like, I didn't come out of that Falcons loss or many of these losses thinking, oh, it's Jimmy's fault other than Denver. Or
it's the player's fault. It's Kyle's fault.
It's been Kyle's fault.
They got talent
time this year.